Hello guys, and welcome once more to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host Tony Evans, taking you through the world and wacky world of heavy metal, heavy rock and everything in between. I hope you've had a few good weeks coming up into the spooky season. I've got a great episode lined up next week, which has got nothing to do with music, but it is something to do with spookiness. I'm going to enjoy doing that one. Firstly though, this week we're going to talk about a little known album, definitely a little known band. They're sort of loomed large in my history for some time. The band is Sabbat, not the Japanese one, but the British thrash band that produced 3 albums in the late 80s and early 90s, with band members that have now gone on to do many other things. Alright, you've got Andy Sneap on guitar, and he wrote most of the music. He now is a wonderful producer, but also plays lead guitar with Judas Priest. So that's, pretty interesting heritage there. All right. So the album we're going to talk about is their second full-length album. I've already talked about their first one, but this is their second one, called Dreamweaver. Open brackets, reflections of our yesterdays, close brackets. So it was released on the 15th of May 1989. It was recorded at Skytrack Studios in Berlin, and it's an unusual album because it is progressive thrash, which is something that I don't know if there's a lot of that around. There may be now, but it wasn't back in '89. It's definitely a piece of work that it has to be listened to be honest with you. It's a really important piece of music, possibly the best thrash album Britain ever made. And British didn't make a lot of thrash, to be honest. It's very much a European and American sort of phenomena. So British bands, UK, weren't really... They were thrash bands then, but this is something completely different. And you're going to find out why. I first come across it when I was 17, 18, 89, 18. And I was in Our Price, which is a record store in a local shopping centre near me in Brent Cross. In the old days when you would spend your hard-earned money on an album, you had no idea what it sounded like, but you liked the cover and you thought, I'll take a risk on it. Now, this was sitting in the discount bin. Now, that's not to say it should be discounted, it's just that when I picked it up, it was being discounted. And I paid like £2 for it, I think. Now, I got it on cassette originally, and I took it home, popped it in, and it was like mind blown. Teenage Tony's mind absolutely blown apart, because it was everything that I loved up to then, right? So it was progressive, so it's got a storyline to it. It is a concept album. It's phenomenally well made. It's got an incredible time signature changes in it. It's very Maiden-esque in that respect. It has this beautiful musicianship. It's wonderfully recorded, and it has depth. It has so much depth that you can almost drown in it. It's incredibly interesting album. Now, it's not for everyone, because the lead singer, Martin Walkeries, if I say that, if I'm saying that right, his voice isn't for everyone. Now, it is a bit of an acquired taste. I really, after years of listening to him, can understand what he's saying. You might not at first, because he does get a million words into the bar. How he does it, I don't know. I watched him live, and I still don't know how he does it. And with the changes of signature in time, and also the story that he's getting into this 44-minute album, was quite amazing. So he recorded on the first album in 88, History of a Time to Come, and then Dreamweaver, Reflections of Our Yesterdays in 89. It is... to be honest, I'm not a big fan of Morning Has Broken, which came out in 91. It's a great album, but it's nothing special. But History of Time to Come and Dreamweaver are just that time in music when you could do anything and sing anything because of punk, because of the freedom of not being on major labels all the time. you could do something different. And for me, this album is the antithesis of the British music industry. How they take one form, add it to another, and create something different. Venom did it, took heavy metal, added extremity to it, and made the extreme metal genre. It also made a classic concept album in, At War with Satan. And people might tell me it's not a concept album, but One Soul Side is one song. It's a concept album, and it's very much a British thing. I really mean that. I think that sincerely. That we can, in our way, intellectualize everything, right? It's sort of like taking the extremities of life, but adding an intellectual twist, something that doesn't just become what's the word? It doesn't just become sort of one-dimensional and I don't know. I think the word youthful is wrong, but one-dimensional is the right word. And because a lot of these musicians that come into this genre late, they usually have come, particularly of Martin's age and Andy's age, they would have come from that either through the punk scene where they could, you could do anything, or they come through the progressive scene, listening to bands like Maiden, like Queen's Reich, a lot about those sort of bands, and in sort of adding. Trying to give him sort of more to the listener, not just 3.5 minutes of extreme music, which you do get in this album. I mean, musically, I've written some notes here that I think it's uncompromising, it's intelligent, it's detailed, it's textured, it's a phenomenal album. I'm going to say that quite comfortably that it sits in my top 5 thrash albums of all time. In fact, I'm going to read you what some people have said about it. Okay, this is here a staggering work of total excellence, Kerrang, a seminal chapter in the evolution of British metal, and one of the finest metal albums ever made. Metal Hammer. I absolutely think that's correct. I think it's one of the wonderfully hidden beauties that, unless you know it, you're not going to listen to it. And I don't know whether this is as widely listened to as, say, any of the thrash metal albums of the American genre. Any of the Slayers and the Megadeths and the Anthraxes, because I think the trouble with it is it's more intellectual, and I think people who want to listen to thrash sometimes just want to circle pit, don't they? They just want to get lost in the speed and the technical ability of the music, which you do get with this, and there are moments in it where it just takes your breath away, right? But it also demands you take some attention, particularly listen to the lyric. Now, as I said, Martin's vocals are not the easiest to hear. After a few listens, you will get them. I'd probably recommend listening to History of a Time to Come first, then this, so you can get an idea. But once you get it, and that's why Spotify is great, because you can read the lyrics. Or if you have the vinyl of it, or even the CD, if you've got magnifying glass, you can read the lyrics. I've got it on vinyl and I really love it. And I think it demands a little bit too much, sometimes a bit more intellectualism, and I think that may have put off some of its audience, because it didn't do that well on release, sadly. It's based on a book, on the 1983 book by the British psychologist Brian Bates, the Way of the Weird, WYRD, Tales of an Anglo-Saxon Sorcerer. The album demonstrated singer and lyricist Martin Werkier's deep held beliefs in weirdism, Anglo-Saxon spiritualism, Celtic mysticism, and paganism. Musically, the album reflected composer Andy Sneap's predilection at that time for increasingly lengthy and progressively technical thrash songs. Shortly before the album was recorded, former Holosade guitarist Simon Jones was recruited into the band as an additional lead and rhythm guitarist. Now, sorry, I read that really badly because I read my handwriting, but anyway, So basically, it's a concept album based on a book from a psychologist called Brian Bates. the lead protagonist's name in the is Brand. It's very much like, in my opinion, an extreme version of A Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. We're not quite sure what the bloody hell's happening, but we're going to enjoy the journey while we're on it, you know? Because, again, as I said, I've listened to this album regularly since I was a young man, and even now, like I sat down in the cafe again this morning to just mull over my notes and get my head around the thoughts of the show and what I was going to say, and even then, listening to the album, I was like, this feels different to what I listened to it the first time. But I like the open-mindedness. I mean, I came from that, that progressive heritage, so this was nothing unusual for me, but it was something that really grasped my intellectual synapses. My brain went all over the place with this album, because, as I said, I bought it on cassette and it had no lyrics with it. I had to sort of guess the lyrics, and this is before the internet, so it wasn't till the sort of advent of streaming until I managed to get a copy on vinyl that I got the lyrics, and they are quite intelligent and very, very interesting and make a good read on their own. I highly recommend you listening to the album, pulling up the lyrics on Spotify and just going through with it, because it will give you a insight to how good this album is written. All right, so it's the members of the band, so that we don't forget the rest of them. Okay, we've got Martin Walkier, as I said, it's Walkyier. If I've said it wrong, I'm so sorry. Andy Sneap on lead rhythm and acoustic guitars, Simon Jones on rhythm and lead guitar, Fraser Kraisk on bass, and Simon Negus on drums and percussion. It was produced by Roy M. Rowland. It was mixed by Moses Meister, and the artwork was fantastic artworks by Tim Beer. You'll see the picture of the artwork in the show thumbnail, so you get an idea of it. It sums up the album and the feel of the album massively. I got this album again in the same time that I got Black Sabbath's TYR or Tear, and that's also based on sort of Nordic and Germanic Viking and sort of paganism, and it really was of Odin's and stuff mentioned in it, and I think at that time I was really going through that phase where I really enjoyed that, because my family way back a couple of hundred years are from Germany, my mother's side of the family, and so I sort of quite enjoy that sort of that side of it. Now that's I've waffled on enough about this album, but what I'm going to do is as usual, I'll go and have a break and we'll talk about track by track, because there's a very detailed notes here that we've made for this. But I'd just like to say this, that I think that this is the pinnacle. I said it before and I'll say it again, you can't stop me, it's my show. This is the pinnacle of British thrash. It really, really is. It's a hidden gem. You can get it now on all streaming platforms. You can even get a copy of it on CD quite easily. Vinyl's a bit harder. It was re-released in 2007, which is how I got a copy on vinyl, because I couldn't get it before. And yeah, it's a small release from in the history of the metal. They're a band that probably didn't make a blip on the radar, sadly, but they are an absolutely brilliant band. And as I said, don't get them mixed up with a Japanese band of the same name. If you want to know what the name means, it actually means it's a witch's. It's to do with witchcraft and worship. Okay. Anyway, enough of me. I've wobbled on. So let's break into 44 minutes and 5 seconds of this album on the second half. Do come with me. It's absolutely well worth the journey. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye for now. welcome back, guys, to part 2. We're going to go track by track with this amazing album, Dreamweaver, by Sabbat. Now, I think I said that wrong. It always sounds like I'm saying it wrong. Is it Sabbat or is it Sabbat? Whichever way you want to call it, right? Reflections of Our Yesterdays, as I said, based on the book by Brian Yates, The Way of the Weird, which one day I might even anticipate to actually try and read. But hey, So we start off. It's basically only a few tracks in this album because they are long numbers. Okay, guys. If you're used to long metal numbers, i.e. Maiden-esque kind of lengths, then you're fine. Most thrash songs don't last more than 3 minutes. This is a progressive thrash, so it has a lot of ups, downs, twists and turns. 1 minute it's playing at 100 beats a minute, whatever, and next thing suddenly you're into a classical piece of music. Then you're in classical, then you're back to thrash, then you're into some traditional heavy metal, then you've got some fiercely fantastic marching heavy metal bass-driven rhythm sections. It's a masterpiece. That I'm going to say that out loud. I'm going to pin my badge on it. I'm going to say it's probably my favourite thrash album of all time. And that's a big call, because I think I've said before that I've put it in my top 5, but on reflection, listening to it the last week or so again, it really has got me thinking about it. Now, one of the reasons I chose this album, actually, this so well listening, is that after last week's episode, I was listening to Deliver Us by Warlord and chatting to Matt about it, who picked up some really interesting musical notes I did not pick up in that album at all. So I'm really proud of him. It opened my eyes to the way I listened to the album again. And a part of it, of the album, is an acoustic section in it, and it just made me think of Dreamweaver. And I thought, oh, gee, you know what? I haven't talked about that one. So thanks, Matt, for giving me that inspiration again. It was wonderful. Now, as I said, it's only a few tracks, so itself, it is not including the intro and outro, which are only like a minute or 30 seconds long. It is 6 tracks. 7 tracks, okay? And they all sit around the 8-minute mark. There's a couple of shorter ones. We open with the beginning of the end intro, where Andy Sneap reads from the book, and you hear like crows in the background and the bell chiming, and it's really pulls you in. If you enjoy creating an atmosphere, this bloody well does it. It's just a beautiful piece. It's 30 seconds, well read by him, and then bang, we're straight into the Clerical Conspiracy. Okay, that's the first track. Now, I'm going to read you what it says it's about, okay? The Clerical Conspiracy sets the scene for the story and the themes to come, introducing us to what Brand, W-A-T, that is, Brand, the Christian missionary from northern England, who 1,000 years ago is sent down to southern England to learn about the pagan ways of the southern Anglo-Saxons, and in doing so determines the best way in which they can be converted to Christianity. Speaking to Kerrang, Walkier explained that in the Clerical Conspiracy, the monks are talking in the abbey in the north of England, discussing the best way of converting pagans in the south to Christianity. What a beginning, right? Straight away, it's got concepts that I absolutely adore. I'm a big fan or reader of Anglo-Saxon history. I enjoy Middle Ages and Dark Ages history, and so this is, and also I'm really quite I'm fond of theology and the churches, what the church does and didn't do, right and wrong, in the conversion of pagans to Christianity. So it's really sort of it's good for me. It hits my sweet spot anyway. And the song itself, as I said, with what Martin does is when he sings, he puts a lot of effort into each line of the lyric, right? It's really, it's speed, it's very fast. It's probably the fastest thrash vocals you're probably going to hear There are faster, I think, but it's pretty fast out there. He gets a lot of words and he spits them with real passion, and he really tries hard to put across the emotion in this song. Again, it's quite a long track. It's 5 minutes 38, the first one, and it really sets you going. Your heart rate's going. I mean, the lyric is, it's just, beautiful, really beautiful, right? Well, I think beautiful is probably the wrong word, but it's just really well written, okay? I mean, you're not going to pick up some of this stuff because of the way he does sing it. There's a great line here. Still a young fool was I, as my story begins, yet like all fools considered myself to be wise, a match for all things. But the lessons I've learned and I've never forgotten, when your teacher is life, then success and survival, and failure is death. From early years I saw the world through tunnel vision eyes. My cloistered mind philosophized and fossilized, secure in my belief was I, assured throughout my life. The only things that could sustain me were the words of Jesus Christ. Absolutely. I mean, it gets that in like 2 lines. So, I mean, this is the kind of lyric that you just don't expect from a thrash album. You really don't. Smite the pagan's pride, we shall take their graven images and grind them into dirt, for the men can live in paradise, must be the devil's work, brothers of the holy order. And then it's basically conversationary, because it starts with a conversation with Brand talking, and then Eppa, and then brothers of the holy order, and Eppa again, and Brand. I mean, to sit down and write this is just something beyond my comprehension, to be honest with you. It's what makes prog really what makes it so much worthy for me. It makes me really enjoy it. And then we move from there. That really and it turns and changes musically on a dime, right? It does. 1 minute you've got a nice ascending guitar piece and descending guitar piece. Suddenly it's galloping horse-based drums and thunderous bass and searing thrash style, whammy bar solos, and that's what you get with this album. It's just beautiful. Then we come into Advent of Insanity. Now, Advent of Insanity is all of a sudden we'll have a quiet moment. We'll have an easier moment, right? It's clean vocals. It's the only time on the album you can really get to grips with Martin's voice. It's beautiful acoustic guitar background. The lyrics are: a sea breeze echoes softly, its song echoes through your mind, leaves you thinking of tomorrow and the life you left behind. Come turn your head to face the wind, and it fills the enchanted sails and drives you to your destiny. The silent sirens wail. It's beautiful, right? I'll read you what the song is about. Okay, it says here: having accepted the quest, Wat Brand sets sail for the south of England via the coast, and according to Martin, Advent of Sanity depicts the thoughts during the journey, thinking about what he left behind and the perils that face him in the future. Did he do the right thing? Right? Did he do the right thing? Yeah, it's just absolutely fantastic. Bit of soul searching sitting there. It's one of my favourite tracks on the album because it is a breath of fresh air. It does take, it's only 2 minutes and, hang on, let me see this, 2 minutes and 27 seconds long, but it takes you a bit of out, because the first one, it takes you so much out of you emotionally that when you listen to it, you do need a little bit of a reprieve. Unfortunately, this is the only real reprieve you get on the entire album, because it doesn't get any less frantic from here. Then after that, we march on to possibly the best song on the album, and for me, possibly one of the best thrash songs ever made, and it is Do Dark Horses Dream of Nightmares. I'll read you what he says it's about, okay? Martin says, Do Dark Horses Dream of Nightmares, Wat Brand has arrived at the south, and whilst waiting for these prearranged guide to arrive, falls asleep, during which he falls prey to nightmares, during which the pagan spirits make first contact with him. According to Martin, the spirits using this contact the spirits using this contact to try to work out whether he is trying to destroy the old gods to impose a new religion upon them. Explaining that the title of the song, one of the spirits meets his black horse's head on a totem pole in a clearing in the forest. It's got magnificent time changes. It is 8 minutes long. It is a song that you could take off the album without being into the separate. You could release it, not that it was ever released as a single, but you could release it as a single, and it would just be, it's crazy. It sits along with me, and this is a big call, guys, because if you all know me, it sits along with Ryman the Ancient Mariner as one of the most epic and impressive prog metal songs of them all. It is just phenomenal. It's probably the best thrash song outside of the big four, so outside of the American big four, Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax and Slayer. I think it is solely the best track on the album, firstly, and a piece of genius. It really, really is. I'll read you some of the lyric from it. Okay, let's see what we got opening up here. Standing on a strange shore, this desolate coastline, it offers cold comfort, very little more than the sky for a blanket, the earth for my bed. The sisters of weird threads upon the loom of life have foreordained your coming here, so weep not mankind of mankind. Dry your worthless puppet eyes, tears, and answered questions, how they play on my mind, now that darkness is falling, and still there's no sign of my guide. I mean, I can barely say that, and I'm reading off a page. I don't know how he's singing songs like Mankind and Mankind, and worthless puppet tears, and foreordained thread. It's just incredible, and so I got a bit of a sniffle today. There's a lovely bit in it where where the lyric goes, flying so high on the wings of a dream, over mountain and forest, cross river and stream, whilst the creatures that feed off the doubts I invent await for my arrival with evil intent. And when I saw them live, and he spat that out at us, it was just like, it really is a brilliant. There's a wonderful bit in the chorus where he goes, welcome to my domain. I've been biding my time, watching, waiting, but now you're mine, weaving the web that entwines you, like a puppet you play on the end. It's just, yeah. I mean, if you wrote these lyrics into a book, it'd make a fantastic book of poetry, right? I can't say much more about how amazing that particular song is. So do Dark Horse's Dream of Nightmares. Yeah. I'm going to wax lyrical on it, but it has amazing twists and turns. It's got one of the hardest thrash sounds that you'll ever hear. It really is. I think it gets heavier and harder than anything Slayer ever did. And people might look at me through your iPhone or your laptop and go, "What are you talking about, Tony? You idiot! Thrash Slayer is the heaviest." No, I don't think it's so. I think Do Dark Horse's Dream of Nightmares is the reason it's heavier and harder. It's not the amount of notes in the bar, or how loud it's recorded, or the screeching solos, or it's just the rhythm. The rhythms in this, Andy and Simon put together are just brutal. It's probably why Andy fits so well in Judas Priest, to be honest, because it's not about a million notes with Priest either, is it? We know that it's about it's what I call the Tony Iommi theory. It's not the amount of notes, it's the riffage, right? Everyone should have their riffage. It's good for them, right? it's just brilliant riffage. Really, really thunderous. I don't know what I could say, really. That's it. I can't say much more. You just need to go and listen to it, personally. And then we get to Best of Enemies. I've written something here. I don't know why I wrote this, but I wrote ascending and descending chords that just make with palm muted triplets on it. I've written, which makes metal just what it is for me. It sums it up completely. It's probably one of the albums. This is probably one of the albums where I fell really head first for the genre, for the musical form, as a young man. To be honest with you, it's just wonderful. I'll read you what he's written about it. So, in the Best of Enemies, the morning after his nightmare, Brand finally meets his guide, Wolf, WLF, who tells him of the pagan ways and starts to rebuke his Christian ideas. Martin told Metal Forces magazine that Wolf tells Brand that if he really wants to learn, that he can't just tell him about the spirits and the spirit world. He has to encounter them for himself. He has to meet the spirits face to face. He says that spirits will give him all the knowledge he wants, but only if he has the conviction of thought with it. He has to actually risk his own death in meeting the spirits. Martin told Kerrang that Brand thinks that Wolf is going to show him around, but Wolf is actually a shaman priest. What else can I say? Actually, again, one of my favourite choruses is in this. Oops, I've hit the mic. Is in this particular track, Best of Enemies. And let me just get the lyric up. On instrument of God force, fed on ignorance and lies, so blind and narrow-minded that you cannot compromise. Even the most foolish thief should know what he is taking. The least he find himself within a cage of his own making. The ways of weird are many, and our path we must decide. For the secrets that you seek are all around you. Use your eyes. Just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And then the way he spits out Best of Enemies in the vocal line, it's just, I can't go for all the lyric. This lyric is, again, it's 8 minutes long, and not one chorus, not one piece of it repeats itself. Right at the end, it's brilliant. It says, the error of its way, and in the future's glimpse, reflections of our yesterdays, drawn to the spirits like moths to a flame. When there is no risk, there can be no gain. Just brilliant. Again, everything that thrash could be and should be, and unfortunately I don't think will ever be again like this album. I really cannot enthuse more highly about it, really. Once that you think, oh God, I'm coming to this, I'm almost there, I'm getting there, and then we have the next track, How Have the Mighty Fallen. This is the closest traditional thrash on the album, I think. Well, let's say traditional thrash, Big Four thrash, right? What it says here is, told from the perspective of the spirits, How the Mighty Have Fallen describes Brand's first real meeting with the spirits and makes plain their intention to fight for their survival, notwithstanding the threat of their imminent replacement by Christianity. In his interview with Metal Forces, Martin said, having been told of the perceptions he must undergo before meeting the spirits, Brand deviates from this with the result that the spirits come too soon. Martin explained to Kerrang that at the end of the song they steal Brand's soul, and he has to prepare himself for a journey into the spirit world to reclaim it. Martin started that Brand has 2 days in which to recover his soul before his life force will ebb out. It's so Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. It's so Genesis. I'd love to know whether Martin and Andy are Genesis fans, but this is so... You could put this on after Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Yes, it's not the same kind of musical form, and you might shock you with the extremity of it if you're not into this sort of stuff. But it's just so deliciously intellectual, but with also so entertaining. And it's one of my favourites. They're all favourites. Well, have you heard that? Nothing on the album's weak. It's all killer, not filler, right? And the lyric for... I'll just grab some of the lyrics of this particular one. Okay. Let's have a go here. Denizens of sylvan places hidden from the eyes of man, courtesans with sylph-like graces, dancing to the pipes of Pan, that echoed through the ether, notes that sound the wings of Halcyon, songs to give our life the meaning that we lack, now they have gone. Watch the pattern ever-changing in the tapestry of fate, weft and weave and interlacing silken strands that fabricate a cloak to fit both king and beggar, those that rule those and those that toil, all are equal in the fact, all pay homage to the mortal coil. God, man's genius. Now, it might be taken from the book, but to get it into verse and to sing it, again, and this is the only criticism, I would love to hear that lyric sung at a slightly slower pace, so I could really take it in. But that is Martin's style, it is the band's style, and that's what made them who they are. So let's not go there. But that is the only one, if I've got to pick one criticism, that would be it. And then move on to Wildfire. Now Wildfire says, Wildfire, Brand journeys into the spirit world. Martin told Kerrang that the title is a reference to Brand's naked dance between two fires called Wildfires. And you feel it. You feel it in this song. This isn't a particularly long song. Wildfire is only 4 minutes and 39. It doesn't hang around too much, but you feel the pagan wantonness, the letting go of traditional concepts of religion that the main character has carried with him all his life. The feeling that he could be liberated and free, and that's what you get from this. In thoughts from visions of the night, when deep sleep felleth out of sight, many a strange thing will you dream, though thoughts is never what it seems. Awaken from my troubled sleep, where dreams once lost as nightmares creep, to steal my soul and suffocate what sanity remains. My anger mute, my anguish blind, within the sad fragment of my mind. Ah, God. Yeah. You know, and you feel it. It's only a short song, but the music itself is really beautifully finished. It's not the heaviest song on the album, but it does give you a little bit of relief. I did say that there isn't much relief after the second track, but this one does give you a little bit. All right, a little bit. But what a great lyric. What a wonderful thought. This man is drawn between the hard linear walls and the stony concepts of Christianity, where it's very black and white, to the seasonal changes and the heathenistic paganism of the original landowners of the United Kingdom. You know, the Angles and the Saxons. It's pretty amazing how this man's journey has taken him. And it was then 1,000 years ago, more than 1,000 years ago as now, would be a long journey from one end of the country to the other. People didn't travel that far, and to suddenly see a different way of life that he may actually really want to live, because it's free and it's guilt free in some respects. You know, you're not trapped within the concepts of Christianity. Not there's anything wrong with that. I'm just going to say that, you know, in his mind anyway. Okay. And then we come to the very final track on the album, called My This Story. Okay. And what he says about it is, in My This Story, as described by Martin to Metal Forces, Brand encounters his own soul, which is a woman. He doesn't know that he has met his own soul, and tells the woman he has come to learn the way of the weird and the power of nature. She tells him to look no further, for she is his. For she is his soul, and on returning to the material world, he will know anything he wanted to know. To Kerrang, Martin elaborated that his soul explains the way of the weird to him, everything that he wanted to know. Thus, his mission to convert the pagans has become instead a voyage of self-discovery. Fantastic. What a good allegory about heading out with one defined idea, rigid and immutable, then to be your eyes open to a more different and interesting way of life. I think that's an allegory for a lot of us. A lot of us come to the world given our religion at birth by our parents with no choice, just given to you. It is what happens. And then later in life, you either rebel and find your own path, or you stay and do this and repeat the same old history with your own children. I myself are the latter. I was born with one and have moved towards another later in life, and I think that's this album. This is what this album is about. This is why I really truly love this album. Musically, it's just a masterpiece musically, but just has this soul to it more than anything I could possibly really point to in its genre. So the last song, let's get back to get some of the lyric on the last one. It's not actually the last track on the album, but it's the last major song. And let's just get it up. I'm standing at the crossroads of my life, nothing to lose. Each path leads to oblivion. Which one will I choose? Rising on the ashes of my plight, I traverse filaments of light that permeate my ethereal form. Sorry, put my teeth in. On omnipotent threads I'm born. You imagine trying to sing that one. Unto place where I can find a balm of ease my troubled mind, that my glimpse things yet unseen, a world not grey but evergreen. Then can you blame me in such a crime to crave for one small piece of heaven that I can call mine? It's just wonderful. See, what he's saying is it's not black and white. You know, you're told it's black and white, but it isn't. There are many hues. There are a plethora. Do I have a plethora of colours? You have a plethora. And that's what I take away from this album. That's what I've taken away from it for the last. What? I got it when I said in '89, so quite some time now. This album has lived with me, and it's the same with Lies Down on Broadway. It's the same with Close to the Edge by Yes. It's the same with Marillion's Script for a Jester's Tear. Any of those sort of deep albums that have sort of sat with me, Clutching at Straws by Marillion as well. As I said, Rhyme the Ancient Mariner. These songs are just deep and meaningful to me. And yeah, there is times in the world for your music to be entertaining. There's times in the music to be in the background. There are times in music just to bloody well enjoy yourself. And some albums do all of that in one go. They intellectualize you. They give you succor. They give you a place to hide in the umbrella of their rhythms. And they also give you a place to escape from reality. And everyone knows me, or meets me or knows me, that I'm not very far away from my headphones. I've either got them on with one ear to the side so I can hear people talking to me, or I'm listening to something. It's not because I'm afraid of the world, people. It's not because I don't like reality. My soundtrack to the world is music, right? Some people's it's the sound of nature, some people's the sound of motor cars, some people's the sound of laughter and children. For me, it's music in all forms. And because I'm so connected to the music itself, I do need to get more from it. And this is the kind of album that gives me more. And that's why I like progressive rock, because it gives me more. It gives me more to listen to and think about. That's me jibber-jabbering on. I really do hope you enjoy this album. It does end, with Martin Heap again in Happy Never After. A little outro, 1 minute and 2. Again, just his beautiful voice, and he has got a beautiful voice, finishing the story. I want you to listen to the album. I want you to maybe even read up about Weird, W-I-R-D, as I said. It might be something you might be interested in. It's a fantastic lost album, And I really wish it wasn't. I really wish it was more on more people's listening list. I'm sure like, people out there listening to the show have heard it and are listening to it, or they've come to the show for the first time because they've seen the title and go, yeah, Tone, I get it. I really do. If you don't, you've never heard it, step outside your comfort zone if you're not into this kind of metal and try it. It's nothing like a guttural thrash, dark black metal vocally. It's just very fast. And sometimes Martin tries to cram too many words into the line, and you can sometimes hear him get lost in its vocal delivery. But if you allow him that and read the lyric and allow him to tell his story, or them to tell their story, you will be very, very I think you'll be very charmed by it. I know I am. And it just makes me smile. Anyway, that's enough for me this week. Have a good one. I said next week it won't be music related. It's going to be something around Halloween. I won't tell you what it is, but I'll give you that time to think about it. Anyway, that's me for this week. Do come and hear me on all platforms. I'd love reviews. I've got very few reviews, sadly. The more reviews I get, good or bad, the more that the world sees me. So those that are listening, that I've listened week after week, if you could jump onto Spotify, give me a 5-star rating or a 4-star, 3-star. I don't give a crap really. 1 to 5. Obviously 5 would be better. If you're on YouTube, come and give me a review. If you're on iTunes, come and give me a review. It doesn't matter what it is. I just need interaction. The show is spreading hugely fast and it's doing really well, but I could always do a bit more. If you like the show, come and do leave me a review. Anyway, that's enough begging from me. Do enjoy the show. Do listen to the album, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye for now, guys. Ta-ta.